You are listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I am your host, Celine Yeager. Each week, I bring you advice from athletes, scientists, researchers, and other experts to help you feel and perform your best, no matter what your hormones are doing. This show is a production of Live Feisty Media. Hello, strong, feisty women. I hope you all are well. So, I have a great one for you this week. I sat down with Diesta Goldsmith of Vision Up Wellness to talk about how she went from writing software for astronauts to being a bodybuilder and figure competitor to now being a menopause fitness coach. What I appreciate about Diesta and what drew me to her is that she's really fun and funny and a really positive force out here in the menopause space, which can trend pretty negative and is becoming increasingly combative. She's also very passionate about and on a mission to encourage more Black women and other women of color to join the conversation and to seek treatment for their symptoms, as well as to recognize their symptoms, because research shows that Black women reach menopause earlier than white women and have worse symptoms such as hot flashes, depression, and sleep disturbances, but are less likely to receive hormone therapy, as well as the medical and mental health services that can help them. So I called Diesta up and we got into all of it, her story, her mission, and her message. And I want to say that I also really appreciate her approach to positive aging. Now entering her early 60s, Diesta is pretty much on the other side, looking forward and putting her best days in front of her. She is positively and definitely infectious. And you can get a daily dose of her positivity at Vision Up Wellness on Instagram, where she does really funny reels, and learn more about her at her website, visionupwellness.com. I'll link that in the show notes. And just a note, we did record this one before I did my Ironman 70.3. So if you're thinking, didn't she already do that thing? I did. We were just talking about it before I actually did the thing. This show was slotted after the fact. All right. As always, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Feisty Menopause. Head on over to feistymenopause.com and sign up for my free weekly newsletter with all the menopause info you need to know. Join our Hit Play Not Pause Facebook group. Or if you want to be part of our community where we meet 3 or 4 times a month with experts like you here on this show, check out the Level Up membership, and those details are at feistymenopause.com as well, and also in the show notes. All right, quickly before we get to it, many thanks to Amino Co. for their continued support of the podcast. Their Perform Essential Amino Acids product has been a staple before and sometimes during my hard rides and workouts, and it leaves me feeling stronger and fresher for sure. So thanks, Amino Co., for your support. All right, enough of me. Let's have a few words about our awesome sponsors and get on with the show. All right, Diesta, I am very happy to have you on the show today. I discovered your work on Instagram, and you have such a really positive, often funny, approach, which I really appreciate. Because even though this can be a really challenging time, I find, it can be a sea of negativity out there, and that I don't think that helps. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah,
always have to be all sunshine and roses, of course, but
right.
having that positive energy and humor, I think just really, really helps. So I appreciate what you're doing in this space.
Thank you. My goal is just to really encourage menopausal, postmenopausal women just to know that, they're just turning the corner. This may be just a bump in the road for them, but the life that they live, they just need to live it to the best. And I'm always passionate, especially about African American women
Mm.
who, really struggle. And my passion is really to educate and then just love all my sisters, no matter if they're Black, white, green, Asian, we all go through menopause. And so it's just a common thing that I just love talking about. And because I had such a hard time myself and didn't have support, I'm like, I need to do something about this. I need to, talk about the things that concern me and then just try to be funny. I think I'm funny. Now
You
my
are funny.
husband's like, my husband's like, don't quit your day job because that was a weak joke. But I like being funny. I love humor, and so I try to bring all that into my space.
Oh, excellent. Well, I definitely want to talk about that, the work that you're doing, especially like how Black women experience menopause differently, because that's been well established at this point. But I
Right.
want to like get to know you a little bit more first. Like I understand that you have a history in aerospace, and that's
Yes.
interesting to me. So what did you do in the aerospace industry?
I got a degree in computer science, and then I got hired by the Boeing company. I'll just say it. And I was involved in space shuttle launches, and that was so thrilling. I mean, I never thought this little girl from Des Moines, Washington, where I grew up, would just be involved in space travel and, seeing the shuttle go off down at Cape Canaveral. That was exciting for me. Loved doing that. I worked in the industry for 14 years,
Wow.
had 2 kids, stayed home for a while. We'll talk about that. And then I eventually went back to, aerospace, and that towards the end of my working career. So,
Wow,
yeah,
that's very cool. I
it
mean,
was
that's
so exciting to know that I wrote software that the astronauts were using. I felt like such a geek, but I loved it. I was like all in, it was so exciting. Love being a part of that in my career.
that's awesome. That is very,
Thank you.
very cool.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
you also in your spare time looked like you were a bodybuilder or a figure competitor. Like when did that
Yes.
come about?
I was when I stayed home with my kids, I was
Oh,
already teaching group exercise. So that became where I was in the gym more, I became a coordinator. Then I had a manager, and she was a natural bodybuilder. And I looked at her and I was like, you look amazing. And she was like, your body, your proportions of your body, you could do this. And I was like, really? And I just want to give a little backstory here. I was a cheerleader in high school, went to college, was a cheerleader in college. And that's when I started really hearing, Diesta, you need to lose 10 pounds. You're good, but you're heavy. Now they
mm,
wouldn't tell you that because
hmm.
somebody could get sued. But I went to school in the South, and being a cheerleader in the South is like being on an Olympic squad. It's a big deal being a cheerleader in the squad in the South. Up in the North at that time, it wasn't that big of a deal. I was from Washington. But when I went to school in Oklahoma, being a cheerleader was like, I mean, these girls walked around campus like they owned it. And so I started hearing, you're overweight, you need to lose weight, you're the heaviest on the squad. And that's kind of when I started having kind of more body image,
Mm.
okay, I need to lose weight and everything. And so when I went into aerobics and everything, I taught at an all women's health club, and it was great. And then when I went to 24-hour fitness, I felt a little bit more of the pressure to be fit. But going into bodybuilding was like my time to like say, you thought I was overweight, but look at me now, sister. It was more to, prove to myself that I could get to this, body that had muscle on it, that had, a butt that was high and not below my knees. And, all this, to get into that bodybuilding era was kind of just a body image kind of thing, kind of underneath it all. So I was challenged by, the physical aspects of it, but I was challenged more by the mental aspects of, really, having my nutrition dialed in, exercising, hiring a personal trainer, and, really changing my body to see where it could go. So I really enjoyed that part of it, seeing how fit I could get, and enjoyed competing. I competed 3 times, and it was a really good, amazing, triumphant kind of thing to get on stage and to win, at 43
Mm.
with 2 kids, going through perimenopause, having hot flashes, and all of that. It was a real journey for me.
Wow, that's okay. I have a couple. So I have a couple questions about that. Like, I can 100% understand like like the empowerment and like, putting in the work and seeing the results. Was
Yes.
there any negative aspect of it for your mental self?
That is a great question, Celine. Yes, getting on stage is empowering and, competing against someone else, but then it started to be, why am I doing this? What is the real reason that I'm, doing these competitions? And then the mental aspect of it is kind of draining, right? After a while, the food and having to be so dialed in with your nutrition is mentally taxing. But I just want to say this to, all these, all the competitors that listen to your show and all the athletes, it was the body I wanted, but it wasn't the body I needed, you
Hmm.
know, and I needed a body that I could maintain,
Mm.
that, was balanced, that could, that I wouldn't have to be so strict, that I couldn't just enjoy like food that I wanted to eat and always feeling like I fell off the wagon when there really is no wagon to fall off of. So after a while, I just realized that I felt like I wasn't doing it for the right reasons anymore.
Yeah, you're living for it, not through it.
Yes, and I think, I see you. I know you're getting back in the pool. You're doing your triathlons, and there's got to be a certain amount of passion and love for it for you to start swimming again, like I saw on your journey. I'm getting back in the pool. What keeps you going, Celine, on those days where you don't feel like, I want to do this. I don't feel like doing this today.
Yeah, I mean, I am a friend of mine once wrote something about me that is so accurate, and I never thought of it. He's like, most people exercise, to for their health or to feel better or whatever. And he said, it seems to be the state that my most natural state of being is being emotion. And that was like, that is the most accurate thing. Like, I
Mhm.
feel like that's just where I feel most myself when I'm in motion. But I started to
Mhm.
feel pretty one dimensional just being on my bike all the time. And I
Mm.
missed like how good I feel when I am more balanced athletically. So I signed up for a half. I would never do for what you're saying. Like, I would never do a full Ironman again because it
Yeah.
was a full-time job. Like,
Yes.
it taxed everything. It taxed my
Yes.
work, it taxed my relationships. It was
Yes.
it was way it was not. I'm glad I did it, and I got a
Right.
lot out of it. It was a
Right.
very important on my journey, but I am not interested in being all consumed, and this just skirts that. Like, I will not ever do a 70.3 again because it's a
Wow.
little too close to that for me. I'm glad I'm going back because, I talk to a lot of triathletes, and I felt like it was important for my authenticity, to be honest with you, Diesta, like, because
Mhm.
I talk so much about training at this time, and I'm like, "Well, you haven't done a triathlon since you did Kona in 2008. Perhaps you should like do one again." I've done a bunch of races and mountain, other things, but I haven't done a triathlon. So I'm really glad I did because
Yeah.
it really informs me talking to my audience. Like the way that my coach, and I'm going to have her on at some point, trained me was different than I might have trained, when I was 39 as opposed to 54.
Yes. Yes. You are not 54.
I am.
No.
I am.
Girl.
My birthday was February 21st. I am. Yes, I am 100% am.
Show me your driver's license, man. You do not look 54.
Thank
And and
you.
and and what I'm hearing you, like, you just have that intensity where you're finding what you love, and you're doing what feels good to your body. And I think I want to say this because when you're training, it takes grit. It takes, like, I'm gonna push through this, but I've come up with an acrostic for grit, and I want to share it with your audience. For me, grit stands for grace, giving yourself that
Mm.
self-compassion, that grace. Okay, maybe I didn't do everything right today, self-compassion. How would you talk to your best friend if they had a bad day? You talk to yourself that way. And the R stands for just renewing your mind to, positive thoughts, what you really, what you want to do, being consistent, and I work with women now that are postmenopausal. So, renewing your mind, just saying things like, I have a great metabolism. I really enjoy working out. And then the I stands for identify. Identify those triggers that are like stopping you, those triggers that trip you up, and those triggers that, keep you from, what you really want. And then the T stands for train in your truth, though, because after 3, I wasn't training in my truth. What did I really want? And, what did, hiring a coach and everything, why was I spending the money because everybody kept saying, when's your next one? When's your, girl, you look
Everybody
great.
gets into that trap.
Yeah, girl, you look great. When's your next one? And I just have to admit that having a size 2, figure and being able to go to Nordstrom's and fit in the size 0. I mean, that was awesome, but that wasn't really the body that I needed. I needed a body that was balanced, that would still be strong, but a balance that, I could maintain and that I can enjoy. And I didn't have that balance during those bodybuilding years. So
Yeah.
I would, if I would have practiced grit earlier, I think I would have found more joy in what I was doing. But after a while, it was just a routine. And why am I doing this? It's taking me away from my kids. I'm always at the gym. I got to do all this cardio. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. And so, while winning was wonderful and competing, I felt strong. It came to an end for me. And I'm so glad for that chapter in my life. It was great.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that
Yes.
there's a lot to be gained for aiming for goals that have ends, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like because a lot of that isn't sustainable. Like I was
Yes.
talking about the Iron Man thing. For me, it was that is not sustainable and was not necessarily healthy. Like
Right.
so
Yes.
I am in a better place, and that's okay. We evolve. We evolve as people. I
Yes.
think that's a really healthy mindset.
Yeah,
Um
and I have such an appreciation for people who do, compete, and for athletes. It changed my mindset into an athlete. Before I just kind of felt like I was an aerobics instructor and
right.
all that kind of stuff. But it changed my mentality to be an athlete. And now, when I go to the gym, I have more of an athletic mindset. I need to do plyos. I need to, resistance train. I need to, have cardio, but just do it and enjoy it, put my jams on, get in my space, and just enjoy my body. And I always want to say that exercise is a celebration that your body can move. It's not punishment
Mm.
for what you ate. And so if you just enjoy that your body can move, I mean, thank God I'm not in a wheelchair. I can get up, I can walk, I can dance, I can do all these things. And so I just always try to make myself that mindset. Exercise is a celebration, Diesta. It's not like you have to go to the gym and you get to move your body today. So I try to have that mindset when now in my later years.
Yeah,
you know
I mean, speaking of, like, you're 61, correct? Because
Yes, girlfriend.
yeah, that blew a lot of people's minds because we reposted one of your Instagram posts and people were like, "What?" So I mean,
Yes.
you seem to have a really good philosophy of all of this, though, of like of aging and your
Yes.
mindset is very,
Thank you.
very positive with that.
Yeah, I think, sometimes, menopause can be where some women feel like, I had a lady who was telling me, she goes, I'm going to be so sad when menopause comes because it means I can't have, kids
Mm,
anymore. And so it's like it was kind of a closure for
mm.
her, and so I just think that you have to really, embrace the change. And, I think there's really five building blocks to having a healthy menopause. And, one of them is like, just, these are my 5.
Mhm.
One is good nutrition, right? Balanced nutrition, high protein, and, getting your grams in, as so you can maintain and still build muscle. And then for me, the next one is, resistance training is so important as we get older. And my body at 61, I still see the benefits of that training that I did at 43. I still see it in my body. I still see it, in the formation of my body and my muscles. So I'm so happy for that. So it's long. If you keep up with it, man, resistance training is amazing. And then the next one for me is sleep quality. Because girlfriend, if you are not getting your sleep, you are a hot mess, right? Just emotionally, mentally. I have this girlfriend, she always says, I don't need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I only need like 6. But then I want to say to her, but you're always cussing people out. So I don't really know how well 6 hours is working for you. So it's like good nutrition, resistance training. That's 2. 3 is sleep quality. 4 is stress management, managing your stress, and then 5 is just to, get your menopause symptoms under control, your hot flashes and everything else. I think if you have those 5, menopause is going to be, manageable, and it's going to be, a good transition for you. And just, you're going to be ramping up your self-care. That's what menopause was for me.
When did you go through? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
No, I was just you're talking about, the transition. I'm wondering, you sounded like you started to go in it when you were still in the bodybuilding,
Yes.
so maybe in your earlier 40s. Like, what was your transition like?
My transition, I thought, was very rough. And that was one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about talking about menopause. But it was like 42, I started having hot flashes. And then I was on, when you're doing a bodybuilding competition, I was on fat burners. I was on, things to speed up your metabolism, which didn't help because it just made my hot flashes worse.
Yeah.
So I stopped coffee, and that helped for a little bit. But then they just came back, with a fury. That's the right word? Yeah. Yeah. They were ferocious. They came back, and I was still competing, and I went to this girls' night out. It's called Bunko, where it's a dice game. And I was consistently just fanning myself the whole time. And one of the girls said, Diesta, she goes, ain't there drugs for that? And I was like, what? Didn't know anything that there was, anything I could take. Yeah, that there was hormone therapy. So thank goodness I had a doctor who had, she was my OBGYN, she delivered my son. And so I had a great relationship with her, which I don't think a lot of menopausal women have good relationships with their doctor. So I was able to tell her what I was going through. And so she put me on Prempro. Now that it's not a bioidentical, hormone therapy. Now I found out that it came from horse urine, right? It's like, that's why I gallop now. I can't seem to walk anywhere. I just gallop. Gross. But it had the estrogen and the micronized progesterone in it. And it had a little bit of testosterone. It changed my life. I felt so much better. And I could cope, and I was a better mother. I was a better wife. I was a better everything, better coworker, because I finally got the help that I needed. And I'm rambling a little bit, but I want to just share that I would, be at work talking to someone, and I'd feel a hot flash come on, and then I'd be drenched on my face, and I would be embarrassed. And the guys at my job got me a fan. They felt so bad for me.
You're like one of those, whenever I look at Getty images for menopause, it's women with fans. That's all you find, right?
Yes.
All women with fans.
Yes. And I was constantly, I'd be peeling off my layers, putting them back on, and they just saw me firsthand what I was going through. So I was, thankful for, these were guys went and bought me a fan. And so I was just thankful for them. But, women don't have to suffer. And now that I know so much from following you and, following Feisty Menopause and seeing all the herbal treatments that you can do, I tried some herbs, some herbs over the counter. I can't remember what it was called. Estrovan was the name of it.
Okay.
Got this big bottle from Costco because my girlfriend said, girl, it helped me. I take that Estrovan, girl, I'm good. Didn't do a thing for me. So, my symptoms were way too strong to be able to just do an herb,
Yeah.
Maybe if I would have had more patience, I could have put my own kind of herb cocktail together, but that takes a lot.
Yeah, and it's unnecessary. I mean, are you still
Yeah.
on hormones or did you
No,
where
I'm not. I stopped. My doctor wanted me to stop like a year after menopause was over.
mhm.
And she said, look at your symptoms, but if they're starting to subside, she goes, I would only, I'd like for you to get off of them. So maybe I was on for 4 to 5 years. So
And did your symptoms come back?
yes, but not where I couldn't manage them myself. I was 48 when I went through when it was a whole year. So by 49, I was off of any kind of hormone therapy.
Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, it's interesting. It's a very individual, as you probably, if you follow this space, you see
yes, I
people
do.
arguing constantly, right? Like
Yes,
you you can be on, I mean, and the guidelines pretty much say like there's no, you don't need to go off them if if you're feeling good and everything is fine, but it's such an individual thing, and I just appreciate you sharing your story because I think some women think like it's this all or nothing thing, and I don't think it needs to be an all or nothing thing.
yeah, I don't either, and especially if your quality of life is suffering. That's what I always want to say. If your quality of life, then you got to do something about it. You just can't, get up and change the sheets and change your clothes.
Totally.
Yeah, I was doing that and just drenched, and I was just like, I wasn't myself because I wasn't getting my rest, and so all those things are so important. And why suffer when you don't need to?
And it
Um,
also raises your risk for other diseases. Like
yes,
when women who have severe symptoms, there's a link between like cardiovascular disease and they don't really understand the mechanism yet.
they don't.
Not having sleep, I think that's a really big one. I think that's
That is
underrated.
huge. It
Like
is
if
huge.
you can sleep, your health is better, period.
Yes.
That is,
Yes. Better heart health, better
yeah,
metabolism, better
better
gut
brain
biome,
health.
better brain health, emotional wellness, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And when we get into that deep sleep and we have those dreams, I read this book called Why We Sleep.
Mhm.
And it's a great book.
Matthew
And
Walker.
yes, he gets real technical, but that book changed my life because I'm like, I am not messing around with my sleep anymore. I am getting myself to bed because it'll help you live longer, look better. It's everything. So I'm really passionate about just teaching those different things to women that come across me, that I work with. Yep.
And I'm curious to circle back to you talked about how Black women experience menopause differently,
Yeah.
and we know like they start earlier, they have worse symptoms, it lasts longer, all of it, and
Right.
a lot of that I think is uh cultural and stress, and all those things that can make the experience worse. I'm curious, did you talk about it with your mother? Like, what are your thoughts on helping Black women have a better menopause experience?
Oh, thank you for asking that. I think one is the culture that you should just power through it.
Mm,
Two, my mother never talked to me about menopause until I finally mentioned to her that I got on estrogen, and
mhm.
and she said, "Oh, I had such a terrible time going through menopause, and I wanted you didn't say anything, you know." So for some reason, her culture just didn't talk to the younger generation about menopause. And she said that she got on estrogen and it just made it worse.
Hmm.
So whatever, the doctor put her on wasn't good for her, but she didn't go back, you
You
know?
have to dial it in sometimes, right? It
Yes,
can take months actually to
yes.
make, yeah.
Yeah, and so she didn't go back, and she just had a terrible time going through it. And so I just think that, it doesn't have to be your mother's menopause. So, just being educated and saying, "Hey, I'm having these symptoms." But a lot of times women don't know what their symptoms are,
Yeah.
right? They just know that they're angrier, or
Anxiety.
yes, anxiety. And why do I feel depressed? And, I'm itching all the time, and all the 37 or 43 different symptoms that women can have is crazy, and I really think that one of rage is one, because if you're a Black woman, if you're a single Black
Mhm.
woman and you have kids and you're the head of your house and you're raising kids by yourself and your stress is off the charts, and those things, you might not even recognize that you're going through menopause because your life is so, you have so many things that you're dealing with now. So I just wanted to speak to, just, knowing, getting educated about menopause and just realizing that 52 is the normal age, 51, 52, but I was 47, 48, so that's almost 3 years earlier for me. I think a lot of women, they suffer from vaginal dryness. I think I heard 80% of women start to suffer from vaginal dryness. So, don't wait till don't wait till your stuff is like cracker juice before you start doing something, right? If it's painful, you know,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
that could be an indication that, hey, I'm starting to, have these symptoms and I need to do something about it. And thank goodness my doctor gave me some estradiol, which is some, estrogen cream for vaginal dryness, and that really helped me as well. But I felt, comfortable enough to say something, and so that's the other thing. Just, be an advocate for yourself. When you go to your doctor, say, hey, look, I need to be treated for this. Don't let them, just look past you. And I think women in general, I've seen statistics. Women in general, if we go in and say we are having heart issues, we're not taken as seriously as men.
I've done
That's
shows on that.
wrong. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I know you have. Yes.
Dr. Galati said the only
Yes.
thing women do uh better in the medical system with heart health is die than men. I mean, that she's just like she's like, it's just a fact. They get
Yeah.
less preventative care, they get less urgent care, they have worse
Yes.
outcomes from surgery. It was really infuriating. And I've seen that. I've talked about this a million times in my own family, how my mother had all the symptoms. I had her go to the doctor and they put her on nerve pills. I had assumed that,
Wow.
yes, I had assumed that they did a stress test and all that stuff. I should have probed more. She ended up having a massive heart attack, almost killed her.
Oh,
And she is fine now, but yeah, I mean, like, shoulder radiating pain, anxiety, all the things. And the woman, like, she doesn't eat a vegetable, she never has. She used to smoke. She's is a sedentary as a potted fern. I'm like, how can you not check this woman's heart? How can you
oh my
not? How can you put her
goodness.
on nerve pills? I'm still, every time I talk about
Oh,
it, I get so mad.
I
But
bet.
yeah,
Yes, it's infuriating.
yeah. I'm just like,
Yes.
unbelievable. So, yeah, I mean,
Yes.
but, I think, talking about the Black women experience, there's also this, in the literature and historically, Black women have been treated really poorly in the medical
Right.
system, so I
Yes.
think,
Oh my
and Black
gosh.
people in general, right? So I think there's a distrust there that probably
Yes.
still
Thank
lingers.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And I listened to a podcast about 1 in 3 women over 60 don't have a uterus anymore. And I have my own Facebook group on menopause, and I asked them there, and there are so many of them that had their whole uterus taken out. And I heard in the South it's even worse, about women, Black women having their
Mm.
uterus removed. And it's very interesting. I heard a doctor saying that when she's a OBGYN. She said when she first got into practice, she was doing like 60, full hysterectomies a year. Then she started treating the whole woman. And she said it got down to like 2 a year. And
Wow.
so for some reason she'd say, okay, this is what I'm going to prescribe for you. 2-week vacation, go. Right? Here, I'm going to prescribe this. And it would be stress management,
Mm.
quality management, right? And women would go in there and she would treat them, and they would stop having all these, crazy periods. And I had friends that they were just on their period all month long, pretty much. And that's hard to live that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally, I think that, and then some of the women that I talked to, they didn't even get any kind of hormone replacement therapy once they had a hysterectomy. They were just left to suffer, you know.
That's
And,
poor
and then some of
care.
the women are like, I don't know if I have my ovaries. I think they didn't even know if they had their ovaries or if the whole thing was taken out. So I just think that, that Black women, and then women of color, that, we don't get the attention that we need, like you said. And it's sad, but we can change it. We can change the script if we become our own advocates. I'm about to get emotional and mad about it, but and then the other thing, my other passion is that
Oh, it's okay.
My other passion is that, women of color, we don't take care of ourselves like we should. A lot of us don't. We don't exercise, we don't eat well, and culturally, we might be eating fried chicken and macaroni and cheese and greens and cornbread, and we just don't see it as a priority that our health is more important than getting our nails done. Our health is more important than getting a new hair weave. Our health is more important than maybe having that new car that you want to ride in, or that new outfit. Buying a gym membership, or buying some tennis shoes and going for a walk. It's more important than those things. And so, that's the kind of thing that I think that women of color can change. They can change the script on their health, so we aren't at the bottom of
Mm.
having the most heart attacks, and we aren't at the highest rate of having endometrial cancer and breast cancer. I saw that 40% of African Americans have a 40% greater chance of breast cancer.
Yep.
That stuff, that just ticks me off, because we shouldn't be that shouldn't be our story. It's 2023. I understand we don't have the same access to healthcare sometimes, and so that's why we definitely have to just be passionate about our own health and say, you know what, I want to live long. I want to be here for my grandkids. I don't want to be on high blood pressure medication and sugar diabetes,
Diabetes is
if I don't have to be, right? So
no, thank you. I cry all the time on the show, so I don't yeah, your passion for that really comes through,
yeah,
and and you're doing, I believe in the power of one, and I think
yeah,
that, you advocating so strongly is going to change somebody, and then that person can change somebody and
right,
show the way.
yeah,
There's a lot of it's interesting. There's a lot of subtle hidden barriers. I mean, I worked in cycling for so much, and
yes,
it would always be like, oh, black people don't ride bikes. You'd hear all these things, right? And
right.
I'm like,
And we don't swim.
yeah, all this stuff. I'm like, really? I don't. But then you look at, like, well, just very simple things, like they can't find a helmet necessarily that fits over their hair. I mean, like I'm like, okay, well, can we fix, like, okay, industry,
Yes,
can we address this? There's a
right.
lot of barriers that um just go completely unnoticed in the white population, or the people who are like making equipment, or do it's very culturally complex. So I think
Yes, it
that the
is.
more of
It
these
is complex.
conversations that we have, like, the better that we can make it for everybody.
Yes. And I know that, like, if people are living in an area where they don't feel like it's safe to go
Right.
walking outside, I understand that. Maybe their budget is so small, or their budget is tight that they really can't afford a $19 gym membership, or they don't have a car to get there, or there's other things. I did see this one lady who was like in her 80s. She was on the Steve Harvey show, and she walked in her apartment an hour a day and lost like 50 pounds. It was crazy.
Wow.
Black woman was determined to get the weight off. And a lot of times we don't do anything until we have a medical emergency. And then we're like, oh, I guess I need to do something about my health, and we don't want to wait for that, because
Yeah.
it'll be harder. And it's either the pain of the surgery, or the pain of going through open heart surgery, or the small pain to make yourself get out and exercise every day. I would choose that. I would choose the little, okay, I don't feel like doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway, as opposed to going through major surgery, $60,000 hospital bill, all that thing, the things that you can do today to prevent medical issues later on in life. It's totally worth it. Totally worth it.
I agree wholeheartedly. I would like to say that my mother had a transformation after her surgery, but I feel like I'm not trying to bat. My mother is a lovely, wonderful woman in many,
Yeah,
many ways,
yes, I know.
but I can't get like she just won't we're very opposite in that respect. She
Uh-huh.
doesn't like to move much and she still won't eat a vegetable. But anyway.
But she just likes what she likes, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she is the epitome of like I am what I am. And
So why so if your mom wasn't really athletic, how did you become athletic? So
my dad is
your
definitely
dad.
more my dad's definitely more athletic.
Mhm.
Just yeah, he was actually a bodybuilder in
Was
his
he really?
yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, he was always into resistance training. So very cool. Very
You
cool.
saw that, yeah. And my kids are my husband's a former football pro athlete up in Canada. So, as my son said to me, I'm so thankful that I would see you guys going to the gym and working out all the time because it impacts him. My daughter loves to hike. And so just your lifestyle just speaks volumes to your kids. And I think it's so
Yeah.
important. I just want to say one more thing about, women going through menopause is to make sure you can talk to your relatives about what they went through. If your mother's not living, talk to your sister, and just kind of see what people in your family went through because it kind of will help you know what's ahead.
Mm.
And menopause is just like puberty in reverse. Your body just has its own path. And so you just really have to get in front of it and manage those symptoms. And you can have a happy menopause, and it's just turning the corner to the rest of a great life that's in store for you. I know it is.
Well, that's a great place to wrap it up. Is there
Yes.
anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to make sure that we did? I feel like we covered a lot of
We
like
did. I think I've said everything. Be your own advocate, and just know that you're worth it. You're worth the investment in yourself. Whether it's paying to have to go to a doctor, or paying if you have to pay to get your gym membership, or stop getting this done so you can get a gym membership, and you're worth the investment in yourself. And so that's why I would just say, vision up is my thing.
yep.
The best is yet to come. And if you take care of yourself, you're going to have a great life.
We'll leave it right there. Well, that's our show. Come on back next week when I sit down with Amanda Thebe, author of Menopocalypse: How I Learned to Thrive During Menopause and How You Can Too. I had Amanda on the show shortly after launching it in the fall of 2020, and that was right about when her book came out. And well, a whole lot has happened in this menopause space since then. So I thought it would be really fun to bring her back and to talk about what we've learned and where we think all this is going. And it did not disappoint. So come on back for that one. And until then, as always, stay feisty. You've been listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I'm your host, Celine Yeager. The show is edited and produced by the strong, talented, and amazing women at Live Feisty Media. Follow us on social media at Feisty Menopause. And please help us spread the word. Screenshot and share this episode on your social media channels with the tag @FeistyMenopause. Share the show with your friends. And please subscribe, like, review, and rate this show wherever you get your podcasts. Word of mouth and good reviews make it easier for other listeners to find. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay feisty.